don't skip this. Imagine waking up to realize that the relationships you've been holding on to are actually draining you instead of building you up. What if I told you there's a way to identify toxic friendships before they take away more than they give? Marcus Aurelius, a great Stoic philosopher, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." But what about when the injustice comes from people we call friends? Today, I'm going to share how to spot the hidden signs of toxic relationships, those that manipulate, deceive, or simply don't offer the emotional support we deserve. You'll learn how to protect your peace and recognize when it's time to step away. In a world where self-interest often clouds genuine care, understanding these signs can truly change your life. Stick around, because the insights I'll share could transform the way you build and nurture your connections. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Stoic Narratives Official for more life-changing content on Stoic philosophy, emotional manipulation, and much more. Sign 1. Superficial connections. Have you ever found yourself surrounded by people who seem nice enough, but when you need help, they're nowhere to be found? You might feel a bit like a prop in their life, rather than a genuine connection. This is the first sign of a fake relationship: superficial connections. It's easy to be drawn into a friendship or bond that looks good on the surface, but it's only when times get tough that the true nature of the relationship reveals itself. The Stoics taught us the importance of understanding the difference between what is real and what is fleeting. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." He knew that true friendships were based on mutual growth and support, not on convenience or self-interest. When a relationship is built solely on superficial connections, it's like a house built on sand. When the storm comes, it will crumble. Let me share a simple example. Imagine you're going through a rough patch at work or in your personal life. You reach out to a friend for support. But instead of offering a helping hand, they offer only a few words of sympathy, then quickly turn the conversation back to their own problems or needs. They might text you only when they need something, whether it's advice, money, or just someone to listen. But when it's your turn to lean on them, they're unavailable or uninterested. Does this sound familiar? This kind of relationship lacks depth. It's all about what the other person can extract from you, rather than building something meaningful together. As Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you realize a connection is superficial, it's essential to take a step back and evaluate how you engage with others. A superficial connection might not always show its true face right away. It often starts slowly. Maybe this person is charming, fun to be around, or seems to share your interests. However, over time, their lack of emotional investment becomes more apparent. They may not follow through on promises, or they may fail to celebrate your achievements and never offer genuine support when you need it the most. These are the relationships where the other person is emotionally manipulative. They prioritize their own needs and desires while disregarding yours. It's not about growing together, but about extracting as much as they can. They may even subtly use you for their benefit, pretending to care only when it suits them. This isn't true friendship. This is self-interested thinking at its core. But how do you handle these situations, especially when you've invested a lot of time or emotions? The Stoics urge us to focus on our virtue and wisdom. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius believed in the importance of discernment, understanding the true nature of things. In this case, you need to see the relationship for what it truly is. Ask yourself, does this person truly care about me, or are they simply using me for their benefit? Recognizing superficial connections isn't easy. Sometimes we want to hold on to relationships because of history or the fear of being alone. But the truth is, these shallow bonds can prevent us from cultivating deeper, more meaningful connections. Friendships rooted in superficiality are toxic friendships. They don't nourish us, they drain us. They can lead to feelings of dishonesty as you find yourself pretending to be okay with something that doesn't align with your values or emotional needs. A quick way to tell if you're in a superficial relationship is to observe the balance of give and take. Is the relationship reciprocal? If the other person is always taking but never giving, it's time to reflect. These one-sided relationships are often emotionally exhausting and can lead to feelings of resentment. As Epictetus wisely put it, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. True friendships, just like wealth, are built on fewer but more meaningful connections. So what should you do? The Stoics would advise you to practice detachment. This doesn't mean cutting ties or being harsh, but rather understanding that the nature of your connection is not serving your best interests. It means realizing that you deserve people in your life who will offer genuine support, respect, and honesty. And if that person doesn't exist in a particular relationship, it might be time to let go and seek those who align with your values and who bring authenticity into your life. Sign 2, lack of emotional support and listening. Have you ever found yourself opening up to someone only to be met with silence or disinterest? You share your struggles, your fears, your triumphs, but they don't seem to hear you, let alone offer any meaningful support. This is a classic sign of a fake relationship, the lack of emotional support and listening. In a true friendship, people listen. They don't just hear, they actively engage. Marcus Aurelius, one of the Stoic philosophers, believed in the power of understanding and compassion. He often reminded himself that all people, deep down, are doing their best with the tools they have. True relationships are those where the other person is willing to listen and offer support when it matters most. When you think about your closest relationships, you'll notice that they thrive on emotional availability. People who genuinely care about you don't just listen with their ears, they listen with their hearts. They offer a safe space for you to share without judgment. But when someone fails to do that, when they ignore your emotional needs or dismiss your feelings, you start to realize the depth of the problem. Think about a time when you've opened up to someone about something personal, something vulnerable. If that person truly cares about you, they will listen with attention, empathy, and patience. They'll be present, not distracted by their phone or thinking about what they'll say next. They might not always have the right answers, but they'll make an effort to understand and be there for you. Unfortunately, in fake relationships, this emotional support is often missing. Lack of emotional support doesn't always manifest in obvious ways. Sometimes it's the small things, the inability to be there when you need them most, the disregard for your feelings during difficult moments. When someone consistently fails to offer the emotional support you need, it can feel like they're emotionally distant or even detached. This is an indication of toxic behavior. A toxic relationship lacks the foundation of trust and emotional security, making it difficult to thrive or grow. The Stoics, who valued rationality and self-discipline, also knew the importance of empathy and understanding. They didn't ignore emotions, but rather, they sought to understand them and respond wisely. Seneca often wrote about how we should reflect on our emotional responses and, in turn, how we should engage with the emotions of others. A friend who doesn't listen to your struggles might be avoiding emotional depth because they are too focused on their own self-interested thinking. If you're constantly ignored or dismissed by someone who should care, it's time to question whether they truly value you or your emotional needs. They might be quick to speak, but when it's your turn, they're absent. Their words might be empty or shallow, never offering any meaningful insight. This could be a sign of emotional manipulation, where they are more interested in controlling the narrative or deflecting from their own shortcomings rather than supporting you. Emotional manipulation in relationships is a dangerous dynamic that often goes unnoticed until it has caused significant damage. The person on the receiving end feels drained, unheard, and undervalued. And when you are not listened to, it creates dishonesty in the relationship, as you are left pretending to be fine when in reality you feel neglected or misunderstood. This kind of dishonesty, whether it's denying your own feelings or ignoring the needs of others, is a key sign of a toxic friendship. But here's the Stoic approach to dealing with it: recognition and detachment. The Stoics weren't about forcing relationships or people to meet unrealistic expectations. Instead, they focused on acceptance and knowing where to invest their energy. They believed that we can't control others, but we can control how we react to their behavior. So, when you find yourself in a relationship where emotional support is lacking, ask yourself, am I investing in a relationship that's worth my emotional energy? It's important to remember that true relationships require mutual emotional investment. If someone constantly disregards your emotions and needs, it's a sign to reassess the relationship. This doesn't mean immediately cutting them off, but rather reflecting on how much emotional labor you're willing to invest. Are they returning that support in kind, or are you left to carry the emotional weight alone? Letting go of toxic relationships is difficult, but it's often necessary for your emotional well-being. In Stoic philosophy, the idea of self-sufficiency is crucial. You are responsible for your emotions and for setting boundaries, and if a relationship consistently undermines your emotional health, it's time to set boundaries or walk away. Marcus Aurelius advised us to focus on what we can control: our responses, our actions, and the company we keep. So, if you find that your relationships lack emotional support or listening, it's time to evaluate whether they are truly serving you. The Stoics knew that we must surround ourselves with people who bring value to our lives, not those who drain us. Real friendships are built on deep emotional connections, mutual respect, and a willingness to be there for one another. Anything less than that is a relationship not worth having. Sign 3. Manipulative and self-centered behavior. Have you ever been in a relationship where the other person's needs always seemed to come first? Maybe you felt like you were walking on eggshells, always adjusting your actions to avoid conflict or to meet their expectations. This is a classic sign of manipulation, a hallmark of toxic relationships. In these situations, the relationship is no longer about mutual respect. It's about control and self-interest. The Stoics believe that true friendship is built on virtue, not manipulation. Seneca once said, "A friend is one soul in two bodies." This idea implies a relationship of mutual trust, respect, and understanding. When manipulation enters the picture, this shared bond breaks down. The focus shifts from mutual growth to one person's selfish desires. Emotional manipulation often becomes a key tactic in these situations. Instead of offering genuine care, the manipulator may use guilt, fear, or promises to get what they want, leaving the other person feeling drained and unappreciated. In these manipulative relationships, self-interested thinking is rampant. The manipulator is usually looking for what they can gain from the relationship, often at your expense. They may use flattery, charm, or promises to make you feel special, only to later exploit you for their own benefit. This behavior can be subtle at first, but over time, you begin to see the pattern. They only reach out when they need something, and their kindness disappears as soon as they get what they want. One of the most harmful aspects of manipulation is its ability to distort reality. The manipulator may gaslight you, convincing you that your thoughts, feelings, or perceptions are wrong, or even that you're the one in the wrong. This form of emotional manipulation can cause confusion and self-doubt, making you question your own judgment and worth. The Stoics taught us that we must cultivate clear judgment and not allow others to distort our perceptions. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In a manipulative relationship, it's important to stay grounded and recognize when you're being controlled. The manipulator may also exhibit dishonesty, presenting a false version of themselves to gain your trust, only to reveal their true nature later. This kind of dishonesty erodes the foundation of the relationship, leaving you with nothing but confusion and frustration. When someone lies to you or hides their true intentions, it's a clear sign that the relationship is not based on honesty or mutual respect. Seneca reminds us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In manipulative relationships, the manipulators are not in control of themselves. Instead, they seek to control others by using deception and self-centered tactics. As these relationships progress, you might start noticing patterns of inconsistency. The manipulator might promise something only to break that promise without hesitation, leaving you to pick up the pieces. This lack of consistency creates a sense of instability where you can never truly rely on the other person. The Stoics emphasize the importance of consistency and integrity in relationships. If someone's actions don't align with their words, it's a major red flag. Being involved in a manipulative relationship can have lasting effects. Over time, you might feel emotionally exhausted, as if you're giving more than you're receiving. The manipulator drains your energy by constantly shifting the focus back onto themselves, leaving you with little emotional support in return. This behavior is often a sign of toxic friendships, where one person is selfishly using the other for their own gain. The key to dealing with manipulative behavior is to recognize it early and set boundaries. The Stoics taught that we should maintain control over our emotions and not allow others to dictate our feelings. In relationships where manipulation is present, it's essential to protect your emotional well-being. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. By setting clear boundaries, you can avoid being sucked into the manipulator's emotional games and preserve your integrity. Sign 4. Lack of trust and respect. Trust and respect are the bedrock of any meaningful relationship. Without them, the connection becomes fragile and shallow, often leading to toxic behavior that erodes the bond between people. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, spoke often about the importance of integrity and self-respect. He believed that we should cultivate relationships based on mutual trust, where both parties can rely on one another, unconditionally and without fear of betrayal. But what happens when trust is absent? When do you feel like your words are being doubted, or that the other person isn't honoring your boundaries? This is when a relationship begins to show signs of dishonesty and a lack of respect. It's easy to overlook at first. Maybe a small lie, an unkept promise, or someone gossiping about you. But over time, this lack of respect and trust becomes more glaring, undermining the emotional safety that is necessary for any authentic connection. Lack of trust in a relationship means you are constantly questioning the other person's motives. It's hard to feel secure when you don't believe that the person has your best interests at heart. The Stoics warned against allowing such doubt to take root, as it disrupts the peace of mind and can cause undue stress. In their eyes, emotional tranquility stems from honesty and openness, where both parties feel safe and respected. Epictetus reminded us that we should not be surprised by the actions of others. When someone shows dishonesty or a lack of integrity, it's not a reflection of our worth, but a reflection of their character. Yet, even when someone behaves in ways that break our trust, we still have control over how we respond. The Stoics teach that we must not internalize the behavior of others, but rather view it with discernment. Recognize when trust is being broken and choose not to tolerate it, for to do so is to allow the toxic dynamic to persist. When you encounter dishonesty or disrespect, it's critical to evaluate the relationship honestly. Are you being emotionally manipulated? Are your feelings and boundaries being ignored? If so, it's important to confront the issue directly, with assertive communication. Stoics value directness, and when trust and respect are absent, speaking up becomes essential. You must express your thoughts, calmly but firmly, without resorting to defensiveness or anger. This approach preserves your integrity while addressing the problem at hand. Take a moment to think about how often you've had to second-guess the intentions of someone in your life. Have you ever been in a situation where you just knew something wasn't right, but you ignored it? You may have brushed it off as a minor issue or convinced yourself that everyone makes mistakes. While minor mistakes can often be forgiven, repeated dishonesty is a red flag that can't be ignored. Rebuilding trust once it's broken is extremely difficult, and in many cases, it may not be worth the emotional investment. The lack of respect in a relationship often manifests through a disregard for your feelings, needs, and boundaries. A disrespectful person might speak over you, dismiss your opinions, or make you feel small. This kind of behavior can chip away at your self-esteem, making you question your worth. In these situations, self-interested thinking on the part of the other person takes over. They prioritize their own desires and needs without regard for yours. Stoicism teaches us that we must hold on to our self-worth and not allow others to diminish it. At the heart of this issue is emotional manipulation, which thrives in environments where trust and respect are absent. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly trying to appease the other person or anticipate their mood swings. This type of relationship makes it nearly impossible to relax or feel at ease. It robs you of your emotional security, leaving you perpetually on edge. To break free from this toxic cycle, it's important to establish boundaries and adhere to them. The Stoics emphasize that we should never allow ourselves to be disrespected or mistreated, regardless of the circumstances. Boundaries help protect our emotional well-being, ensuring that we are not constantly subject to mistreatment or manipulation. As Seneca wisely advised, we should only invest our energy in relationships that bring us peace and positivity. If someone consistently disregards your trust or disrespects your feelings, it's time to assess whether that relationship is worth maintaining. The Stoic approach is not one of abandonment, but one of clear-eyed recognition. We must acknowledge that there are relationships that no longer serve us, and it's perfectly acceptable to step away from them. Sign 5. Inconsistency and unreliability. In any relationship, consistency is the glue that holds things together. When you can rely on someone, you feel secure, knowing that their actions match their words. But what happens when that reliability falters? When promises are broken and behaviors shift unpredictably? It's in those moments that we start to notice the signs of a fake relationship, one where the bond is unstable and the connection is fleeting. In Stoic philosophy, there is a clear call for virtue and integrity, and these qualities require consistency. As Epictetus teaches, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. But when someone is unreliable, they only bring chaos, not clarity. Think about the people in your life. Have you ever encountered someone who promises one thing, only to fall short when it's time to follow through? Perhaps they make plans with you, but cancel last minute, or they assure you they'll be there in your time of need, only to disappear when the moment arrives. At first, you might brush it off as a one-time occurrence, but over time, these broken promises become more frequent. This inconsistency isn't just frustrating. It undermines trust and creates emotional turbulence, eroding the sense of security you need to feel safe in a relationship. The Stoics understood the importance of aligning actions with words. They believed that living a life of virtue meant being dependable, both to ourselves and to others. To be reliable is to cultivate a sense of integrity, where you act with consistency and honor the commitments you make. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." If someone is unreliable, they are wasting your time and energy, two precious commodities we can never get back. In these situations, it's crucial to ask yourself, what does it mean for someone to be inconsistent? More often than not, it's a sign that they don't take the relationship seriously. If someone truly valued you, they would show up, not just when it's convenient for them, but consistently. Inconsistency often stems from self-interested thinking, where the other person's priorities outweigh the value of the relationship itself. This kind of behavior feeds into a toxic friendship dynamic, where one party is invested and the other isn't. If you find yourself consistently waiting on someone who cannot be relied upon, you must assess whether the relationship is worth preserving. The Stoics emphasized emotional discipline, which means you must recognize when someone's actions are taking a toll on your mental well-being. The more someone fails to meet your expectations, the more you feel disappointed, and eventually, emotional manipulation can take root. Emotional manipulation thrives in relationships where there's no consistency because the lack of predictability creates anxiety. This can lead to a constant emotional roller coaster, making it difficult to trust the person. When you encounter inconsistency in a relationship, you may start to question your own worth. After all, if someone can't consistently show up for you, do they truly care? This is where the Stoic practice of self-reflection becomes invaluable. The Stoics believe that we should never let the behavior of others dictate our sense of self-worth. Instead, we must evaluate whether we are giving our time and energy to relationships that are meaningful, dependable, and based on mutual respect. Inconsistency often leads to the painful realization that the relationship may not be what you thought it was. Maybe the person was only in your life for the short term, or perhaps they never intended to commit in the first place. Either way, the result is the same. You are left feeling unimportant and your time unappreciated. When this happens, the Stoic approach would be to let go of the expectation that someone will change. Instead, focus on what you can control: your actions, your emotional response, and your future relationships. In dealing with unreliable people, it's important to set boundaries. One of the key aspects of Stoicism is knowing where to draw the line, when to stop investing in relationships that are unbalanced. Just as we should avoid allowing ourselves to be manipulated emotionally, we should also avoid being continually let down by someone who cannot offer us consistency or reliability. It's not a sign of weakness to walk away from a relationship like this. It's an act of self-respect. If you encounter inconsistency, the best way to handle it is with assertive communication. Talk to the person about how their unreliability is affecting you and express your feelings honestly. If they are truly committed to the relationship, they will understand and strive to be more dependable. If not, it may be time to reevaluate the worth of the connection. Self-respect and emotional well-being should always come first. In the end, recognizing fake relationships is not about suspicion or negativity. It's about protecting your emotional well-being and investing in relationships that align with your values. By looking for signs like superficial connections, lack of emotional support, and inconsistency, you can avoid the hurt that comes from false friendships. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control and to make sure that we only nurture the relationships that truly add value to our lives. So take action today. Reflect on the relationships around you. Are they built on trust, respect, and mutual effort? Or are you holding on to connections that are draining you emotionally? Leave a comment and share your experiences. I'd love to hear how you've handled fake relationships in your life. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more insights from Stoic Narratives Official. Stay tuned, because our next video will dive deeper into the art of emotional mastery in relationships.